Quarry by Butler.
Depending on where you stand, the cliff face is mostly obscured by ancient oak trees, more recent hawthorns, and sycamores. Yet, glimpses of white gleamed where the late afternoon sunshine hit exposed chalk. This particular Surrey chalky cliff, with its flinked highlights, has been dazzling the people living in its shadow since Saxon times. Parts of the cliff look down on pasture that has been used for grazing and foraging since people in the region have farmed. Somewhere among all of this is an ancient cemetery and hidden caverns where it's rumored there are valuable relics. This is a lot, isn't it? Well, if you can, stay with me, because there's more. So much more. I'm talking about the North Downs Quarry, located in Riddlesdown, just outside South London. It was closed as a quarry in the 1960s. It's fenced off, 10-foot-high fencing to keep out all Butler determined. That wall of chalk has fascinated me since I was little. So white. So bright. I would pester my parents to take me walking up there so that I could look into the pit to see what I could see. Obviously, I could never see into the pit. No one could because of the fencing. Yet, each time my parents took me up there, I would see if we could find a gap in the fence so that we could sneak in and get a look. There never was a gap in the fence. I never did get to sneak in to get a look. Maybe that's the reason for my continued fascination. Then, when I was about 17, signs appeared on the fencing warning people to stay out. Big yellow danger signs with danger of death. I'm serious. That's what the signs read. A bit OTT, I thought, considering everyone could see from a distance that there was a steep fall and, yeah, if you went over it, you wouldn't survive. On top of that, security teams started to walk the fence line during the daytime. Talk about nanny state. My fascination with the quarry stayed even after I left home to start uni. I talked to one of my tutors about it, and it turns out that she was interested in the history of the North Downs, Suthridge in particular. What in the where is Suthridge? I asked her. Smirking at my poor joke, she told me that Suthridge was the Saxon name before the county became Surrey, or something like that. She went on to tell me that for a few years, she had lived in a town a couple of miles from where I grew up. What a coincidence. For a brief period, we got into the habit of meeting for a couple of pints to chit-chat, and I would pick her brains. She told me enough to push my fascination into an obsession. By the time I'd finished uni, I had consumed every paper, article, book, geo-survey about the area. What stood out was that the authorities had gone out of their way to keep the general public away from the quarry. Designating it a site of significant scientific importance, or whatever the term is, doesn't account for the signs, which have been renewed over the years, or the security teams. Besides, if it's so scientifically important, why wouldn't there be a regular flow of tours and research teams and such? Why was the only sign of life beyond the fencing those weird-looking goats? I really want to know. I struck up conversations with the security men and women when I carried on going for my walks on Riddlesdown after I moved back home. I became convinced that they don't actually know anything. That is, until during one of my stop to chat moments, one of them did a strange multiple rapid blinking thing when I asked them about the story, which some experts dismissed as myth, that this was actually a military site constructed during the Cold War, when we all feared a nuclear strike from the Soviet bloc. He laughed, still blinking.
How could this old chalk pit be anything but a big hole in the ground?
He asked. Feeling sheepish, I shrugged and walked away. It wasn't until I was back indoors and making myself a snack that I thought back to his body language, which in retrospect seemed telling. Of all the questions I've asked, all the conversations of the previous months, why was this one different? Why did that question hit a nerve? Why did that question jar him so much that he couldn't hide a lie? There's a partially decommissioned military base a couple of miles from my home, RAF. It's been there for decades. Could it be that the base is not so decommissioned after all? Is the quarry an extension of the base? My curiosity level went from the ceiling to the roof as I decoded all the conversations with the security team and matched it with all that I had read over the years. Days later, I came to a decision. I was going to go up there and see for myself. Once I knew for certain, once I knew the secret of the quarry, I would let it go. I took some time to work it out. I needed to choose the right section of fence so that I didn't end up on a ledge with nowhere to go, but where there was a path of sorts that I could navigate down into the pit and be able to get out again afterwards. And I could do it with just a flashlight to guide me. The next full moon, telling my parents I was going out to meet friends, I set off, grabbing the bag I'd left in the hallway on my way out. To the couple of people I passed in the street, I must have looked really odd with the top of a stepladder poking out at the top of my camping rucksack. I knew the trails up through the scrubland and meadows by heart. My chosen spot was in an area shielded by hawthorns. I kicked rocks and lumps of soil out of the way until I could place the stepladder on more or less level ground. I stepped on the first rung, and that light exploded around me. Startled, I looked over my shoulder, and then I lost my balance and fell off the ladder.
We knew that one day you would.
In the morning, Hannah's parents left for work as usual, going through their day and evening without realizing that anything was amiss. When they checked her room that night and saw signs that she hadn't returned from her night out the previous evening, and when there was no answer on her mobile, they used social media to contact the friend she was meant to be meeting. When the friend told them that she hadn't seen Hannah and that they'd had no plans the day before, her parents reported her missing. No, they told the officers, she's not answering her phone. No, this is not usual behavior. And the officers came by. When they searched her room for clues, the officers brushed aside Hannah's pages and pages of notes and books about the quarry, as that obviously had no bearing on what may have happened to her. They interviewed her friends, colleagues, and exes. No images of her appeared on any public or private CCTV or doorbell cameras. Anywhere. A fact which brought Hannah's parents and immediate neighbours under suspicion. When no evidence was found to link family or neighbours to her disappearance, the police were forced to swallow their suspicions and look elsewhere. Their search has not ended. Every so often, the police's tip line receives a call that Hannah has been seen. One tipster claims to have seen her in Prague. Investigators follow up on all the tips, even knowing that they are bogus. They know that Hannah never left the area. But proving it, well, that's something else. Meanwhile, up at the Rose and Crown pit, the Quarry's secrets are safe.
You have just listened to Quarry, which is a work of fiction. The story was written by Anne Butler. Sound effects were provided by Pixabay. Do feel free to share if you enjoyed listening, but please note, no portion of this story can be broadcast or adapted without written permission from a member of the Book Griffin team.